What is up, everybody? Circonflexes here. We're going to take a look at the FV4202P, which is now going to be the Tier 8 British Premium Tank instead of the Tier 10 that we were used to. And you can, I've heard on Reddit and stuff like that, is that you can actually buy this tank later on, and it will be in the tank tree, or tech tree rather, as a regular premium tank that you can just buy with gold. I don't know the gold pricing, but Wargaming gave us some press accounts with only this tank on it, just to see how it is and how it performs. I think it's already on the NA server because something went wrong there, but I won't get into that in this review. So instead of just showing you the base stats for everything, I actually already equipped everything that I had on it when I played this tank, and in these statistics you will see the tank perform in the video. I'll show you the crew later on. Basically I was using Bros in Arms and 3 or 4 crew skills. Not entirely insane, because it is premium, so you're gonna have 3-4 crew skill crews in here, I would presume. At least I do. And to make it a bit more competitive, I also put on the food. That's mostly because the gun is awful. It really is. It has some good points. The stock pen is 226, and the premium pen is almost 260. It's 258. 258 pen is what you will find on tier 10 mediums as a base pen on a lot of the tier 10 mediums. However, there's a lot of things wrong with this tank, and I will get into that a whole lot more during the replay itself, but I'm just going to talk you through the stats here. So the DPM with everything on it, this is also without Bros in Arms, which I do have in the replays, but I think I have no way of showing you those statistics with Bros in Arms calculated in there. Maybe. Also it says 8,000 gold, I just realized. So I don't know if that's the actual price or not, but yeah, anyway, let's get into it. So the good thing about this gun is the base pen. 226 is one of the highest, if not the highest base pens on a tier 8 premium. Which is really nice, which means you probably won't spend a lot of time shooting the gold ammo unless you meet the basically tier 10s. 226 is pretty compatible against tier 9s still, with some notable exceptions like an E75 or whatever. But anyway, so the reload time is fine, the DPM is actually kinda okay. I mean, the base was about 1800, which is a bit slow, even and with all of the things added, it goes barely over 2100. But the thing that really annoys me about this tank is the dispersion with the aiming time. So the dispersion is kinda okay actually, like 0.31 now with the food and everything, but the base is 0.34. The aiming time is 2.5 basically, and I bring it down to 2.33. 2.3 is the base aim time that you want in medium tanks. I've said this a lot of times before. You really do want 2.3 aiming time, and then with the third stabs that makes for a really nice handling of the gun. Whilst moving and everything is a bit high as well, and after firing as well. The gun handling is simply awful, even with all of this added into it. So with the first step and ventilation and food and Bros in Arms, this thing feels like a piece of crap in the handling department. As I said, the pen is fine and the reload is okay. Another thing that's absolutely awful is the fact that it only goes 35. 35! A lot of the time you're contesting for spots with heavy tanks, with T-34s and Lewis. The hill on Himmelstor, for example, you will be there almost pretty much, depending on the spawns a little bit, but depending on if the spawns are equal, you will be on the hill on Himmelstor pretty much as fast as a tier 8 heavy. It is absolutely ridiculous considering that it doesn't have any armor to negate and why this thing has such a low top speed. There's nothing there. The reverse speed is like normal, the power to weight is like, yeah, it's like okay, tank first is 40, is okay. You know, frame resistances are all pumped up because of the food and stuff. But the speed is god awful. The 35 is really the nail in the coffin for this thing. Because it also doesn't get a lot of armor. I'll get into that in the next bit. And another thing that is okay is that it has 10 degrees of gun depression, which is really nice because it's also kind of slow to, kind of low to the ground already. It's not as big as the patents and stuff like that. So being hauled down and everything, it's kind of okay. Like 10 degrees gun depression is absolutely excellent. There's nothing really to complain about there. However, the turret doesn't really work it just doesn't work against tier 8s, and it kind of works against tier 7s. Like 175 pen is kind of the threshold of things that will pretty much auto pen you, it feels like. Which means that things like ISs might bounce you, but might just full pen you for 400 damage. Or 390. The free range stock is 390, which is a bit, it's like average for a Tate, if not a little bit maybe in the high side, but I'm used to having like 400 base. So running with optics is a completely viable option with 390 instead of the ventilation, but the gun frustrated me so much that I almost exclusively ran this tank with ventilation just to counterbalance the awful gun handling. It is really bad, as you will see in the replays as well. Anyway, so that's all fine and dandy. If you take a look at the 3D model, you'll see that it basically has no armor to speak of. It's about 80. These things the side skirt things do kind of space, so you might bounce like a heat when you're angled or something. The funny thing is, and I thought this was going to be a blaring weak spot, the turret ring is actually not that bad armor-wise. So I would not recommend shooting that at all. This is what I actually fought one other of these premium tanks. I don't know who was in it, but I shot him in the gun ring just to test it out basically, and it bounced because I didn't even look at the armor model yet when I was playing it. So I would not advise you to shoot the turret ring unless you have like the 250 range of pen, and then you will pen it quite nicely almost every time, pretty much every time. Like tier 10 mediums will wreck your turret ring quite a lot. The armor on the turret is not anything to write home about. The roof is especially weak, but once you're angled and once you put your gun down like this, like you will have a little bit more effective armor peeking around hills and stuff like that. But overall, you have to do that anyway, because what else are you gonna do in this tank? You cannot brawl for the life of you. So some things you have to avoid is just shooting the turret ring. Just shoot it pretty much anywhere else. Shooting a gun is a bit risky as well. I found that like sometimes whatever is here kind of absorbs the shell. It doesn't really have a gun mantlet, but this bounces more anything than the outer reaches. Do keep in mind that you will have like extreme angles and stuff like that, of course. But if you are angled like this, and people can shoot you here for like 98, like there's tanks that will HE pen you quite handily. Like the tier 10 Centurion and stuff at like 105 pen. But that's beside the case. So armor is nothing to write home about. It doesn't have literally anything to get away from a fight. You're really committed to a flank. It kind of feels like a heavy tank in that respect, is that like once you go to a flank, once you go to the 8-9 line and fight there, you're committed. You can almost never get away from that situation. If things go south or the enemy shows up in larger numbers, you're completely boned. Like the 40 kilometers that that the Centurion has at tier 8 and stuff like that, it kind of reaches that 40 quickly. You can kind of climb hills and stuff like that rather quick. The top speed doesn't help obviously, but 35, like that 5 kilometers doesn't seem like much, but by God, this is super noticeable. So I also put this tank alongside some other tanks that came out recently or I just regard as very good. So the tanks that came out recently are the Mutts, the Pat in Korea, and the M4A1 Revolution. Probably got to pronounce it completely right. And the CDC, one of my personal favorites. And this is without the ventilation and all that stuff. This is all base, bare bone stuff. So yeah, so that's why the DPM is lower than you saw here, etc. So, as you can see, there's not a whole lot of red going on. Red meaning that the FE is better than the tank that we're referring to, and especially in the firepower and weapon handling, it is awful compared to anything else that came out recently. The movement, now you will see the terrain resistances are a bit awful, but you also have to keep in mind that all of these things go a lot faster. Hell, even the M4A1 goes 40. Like, even the M4A1 is more maneuverable than the FE. It's absolutely horrible. The pen, obviously, it wins there. Like I said, it's probably the highest base pen of all the tier 8s in the medium tank department. The damage is actually 30 lower. It's 230. Like, I always get somewhat annoyed at 240 alpha. Like, it gets boring really quickly. But 330, so you even get 10 less there, which means that yeah, you trade even less effectively, because you will, if anybody shoots you, they will pretty much always bend you. So there you go. The shell velocity is nice, over 1,000. 1,000 is kind of the benchmark where you want your shell velocity to be. That's not just nice. Anything else you can get higher than that is nice. Ammo capacity doesn't really matter much, but 50 is kind of on the light side. Now, so the gun handling is awful. Whereas the accuracy is actually not even that bad. 0.34, like I said, it's not that bad. Kind of good. The CDC kind of still wins here, but it wins out over the Mutts and the Petagoria slightly. However, the aiming time, so the handling, so the time it takes you for you to shoot that accurate shot, takes forever. It is like the M4A1, which gets a 390 Alpha gun, is only a little bit higher and almost just as accurate, with better dispersion whilst moving, whilst you traverse the tank, whilst you traverse the turret, and after firing is the same. So the gun bloom after firing is just as big on the 390 Alpha gun. It is absolutely insane. Alright, so once we get to the movement, like I said, the terrain resistances are kind of nice, but you won't really notice this. Unlike the Centurion, where you kind of notice that you do climb hills relatively fast and stuff like that, even though it only goes 40, this tank, you don't really notice it at all. The power to weight is rather awful. As you can see, it has the worst power to weight out of all of these, including, once again, the M4A1, which is not particularly known for its agility. So, with all of that said, let's take a look at a couple of replays. I mean, the armor, we can talk about the armor, I guess, but it's not much to talk about. It's really bad. It might look that like all of these things have worse armor, like in the turret and stuff. 170 front, that's kinda good. It really isn't, because of the way the turret is shaped, basically. And the whole armor doesn't really matter either. Like the Pet in Korea clearly wins, and the Mutts is clearly better in the whole armor department as well. Health-wise, it's normal. That's about it. I always ran with Pudding, and I never got on fire once, and I think I played about 20 games in a row, and basically never got lit on fire once. So I do recommend, to counterbalance all of the awfulness of this tank in the gun department, with Pudding and Vents. However, if you're gonna run optics, you might as well also run the fire extinguishers, I guess, and then you will also make 20k more credits per game, because obviously these things cost 20k a game, and it's a premium, so you will most of the time make it back, unless you have a really awful game and you shoot like 3 times and call it a day. But all in all, if you have an average game, you will still make a pretty good amount of money, even with the Pudding at a minus 20k credit, you know, going off that profit. Anyway, enough about the stats. I think we've ranted on long enough. It is pretty damn awful, but how does it actually feel like in real tanks while you actually play the tank? So, next up we're going to take a look at a replay or two. So we are here on Airfield with really favorable matchmaking. Pretty much a couple of tier 8s, about 6 or 7 of them, a bunch of tier 7s and a couple of tier 6 and 5s, which is the matchmaking you want to have for your tier 8s, because -2 matchmaking is fair and balanced, Kappa. Anyway, so this tank, you will see one of my biggest gripes with this tank right away, and it should not be difficult to solve the mystery here. It is obviously the speed, 35 kilometers an hour. I barely overtook that Leuve, and I'm now racing with an IS-3, whilst an IS heavy tank is far in front of me. You will see that this is super annoying. You will quickly see, like, the position I want to take on these maps is pretty much here at E7. Now, it's been 1 minute, and I'm not even anywhere near the middle yet. The Comet is there. The Comet is there, don't worry about him. But me, nope, the IS-3 is faster than my medium tank. Now yes, already got shot at, and he already fired a shot. I am still not able to actively do anything going into minute 14. So VKA shows up. This is a relatively easy shot, even for this gun, because it was up close. I had pretty much a large portion of the side of a VKA. Shouldn't be too difficult. Now, I really want to go into this spot there, but I cannot do that because of the speed. So what I need to do is wait patiently for people to shoot this IS-3, basically. So the Tiger 1 shoots, I decided to take my chances here, see the 112 coming, but I'm already way too committed, and I take the shot for free. Trying to hit his inner wheel there, but I think I hit his upper front, so that one did not go through. 112 kind of played weirdly there, and I just shoot him in the lower plate. That shot was actually pretty lucky already, considering it was pretty much not fully aimed. I was aiming for his lower plate, of course, but it was kind of a dice roll, if anything. So I'm just trying to like kind of support my IS-3 here, but I see that we don't have a lot of people in, well, what I call the middle, but it's really not the middle, near the beach there. We have a T-42 and a Rheinmetall back in the base, and a Rudy and a Chevy to spot. So kind of check if there's somebody coming through the middle. There's sometimes people coming from F56 here. So the FV4202 comes in there. You see me looking around. And here I just wait literally for everybody to shoot, and then I'll take my sweet time to aim. So he comes in. Kind of a half snapshot again. Lucky enough, hits in the track, uses his repair kit, T-42. And barely get that shot in. Super lucky. Pretty much on both those shots again. So here I'm waiting again. I see the FV4202 being aggressive in the CDC. And I just quickly check again because we're kind of safe. And then here you go. Sometimes you're lucky here, sometimes you're not. This Cromwell shows up, gives me an extra shot. I'm okay with that. We high roll as well for 342. So again, I'm just scanning the area all the time. And I see the Yak Panther being really aggressive here. So I'll start pre-aiming already. There we have that lovely accuracy. And I was using the servo reticle, but you know. Here I aim, shoot. Like, keep in mind that I barely moved here between shots. So the CDC, that was pretty much fully aimed. I saw him moving up, and I didn't move my tank at all, so I didn't have a lot of bloom going on. Which is where the accuracy still is kind of nice. Because if you're fully aimed, it's actually relatively accurate. It's just that the aiming takes forever. As another side note, like you will be punished so incredibly hard for shooting on the move and stuff like that. Even more so than usual, right? And for some reason, it's, I don't know, it's awful. Even at close ranges, like the T-42 shot was like the whole entire side of a T-42. And I almost feel lucky for hitting those, like seriously. So the teams are kind of, you know, 6 against 5, it's kind of easy. See the CDC moving up again. Take my time to aim. Don't move too much between shots. Obviously, he's never going to spot me here. The CDC decided to wait around and take a shot because he already took one. I tried to kill the CDC here, but he's already off. I mostly have all of this time because of the IS-3 and the prot here, keeping the people off my back, allowing me to shoot the middle. The type doesn't pay attention to me at all. And these situations are the ones you need to find. You need to find these situations like always. But in this tank, it's even more important. Like, you cannot take a fight with anything or anyone. Pretty much like tier 7 heavies are pretty much a no-go already. You see the type, hit him on the move, but this is where the 230 alpha really doesn't help. If I had 240, I could kind of like high roll. Well, I wouldn't say reliably or anything, but he could have been a one shot. Try to take this 112 out. See, if you don't fully aim, shots will go anywhere, dude. Like even at close ranges, and here I just take my time. Notice the turret first, by the way. It takes quite a while for my tank to swing around the turret. But just by looking at the stats, you don't really get a feel for the tank, but once you start playing it, it's just like, oh my god, like the turret first is just not that good. So here we have some like almost fully aimed shots, penning the Type 62 turret with the good base pen on this AP. Shoot him again, and there I actually bounced a shot. Like I said, I feel like the 175 pen is kind of the mark where you kind of get the bounces on the turret going. So the Type 62 is scared off. My teammate finishes him off. We do rack up about 3,400 damage right now, with only an ELC and a 30 left. The 30 has been base jamming all game, so he's probably in full health. And he doesn't have a turret. He probably forgot one to buy at the IKEA. I don't know how that works, but you should always bring a turret. That's a pro tip right there. Look at the speed, ladies and gentlemen. The only reason why I had a relatively good amount of damage for a tier 8 is because I didn't have to move much. I was just pretty much all in one spot, being able to snipe whilst other people, you know, take the hits and all that stuff. Like, there's so many factors you have to take care of whilst you play this thing and trying to have a good game. So here I fly by, hit him in the tracks, and he doesn't repair. So this is just easy game. Like I said, buying a turret is pretty important in Rebel Tanks, let me tell you. So that's pretty much it. The EOC is going to run. I'm going to stay in the base or something like that. Really not much going on, but we do rig over 4,000 damage in there just because of the FV40 basically. So that's pretty much it. Like, so the only reason why this is like an okay game is because I had one or two teammates backing me up in the middle, and I was able to shoot people that were kind of too busy doing anything else. And you can do that with pretty much any other tank, which is why this is such a bland and boring tank, really. Like, it's not much going on here. Anyway, I will cancel the replay here, and we'll talk about the final thoughts of the tank. But because, like I said, the EOC is just running around, and I'm never going to chase him with 35 kilometers an hour. This was the ace. 4100 damage, 1200 assistance, almost 1400 XP, 4000 damage, like I said, 2 kills, and we made some profit, 80k. We spent 16k on ammunition here. Repairing the thing was only 6380, and obviously the consumables we used was the pudding, which was 20k, but like I said, we still made 80k, which is rather nice. Like I said, these days I mostly use my premiums for crew XP bonuses. As you can see here, bonus for vehicle tier 200 XP. So I'm definitely going to use pudding on this tank if I ever decide to play it on my main account. However, 20k is a lot to spend, so if you don't want to do it, that's absolutely fine. But I just despise the gun without ventilation and pudding. It is absolutely awful. But we make 80k there, so that's rather nice. So, what are my final thoughts on the new premium tank added here, the FV4202P, is that it is very bland. It's really just bland. I really don't have a better word for it. The thing is, 35 kilometers an hour is just simply just not enough for a medium tank. It's not enough for a medium tank at tier 8, to say the least. And you all know I'm an aggressive Rebel Tanks player. You know, I don't survive a lot of battles, but I get the job done, kind of thing. But even if you're more of a defensive kind of player, more of a reactionary player, I still think the 35 kilometers an hour is gonna make people really, really sad, really, really soon / fast. The only thing that's good about it is the pen. Alright, so the pen on the gun is excellent and is very nice, but the thing is, like, you don't have any armor, right? You don't have any speed, you don't have any armor, you don't have any aiming time. What you usually do with tanks that don't have a lot of armor is snapshot a whole lot more, or have half aim shots going on, so that you minimize the reaction time of your enemy, and that you minimize the capability of them, shooting back and actually hitting you. That's also something you kind of have to do in this tank, especially in the higher tiers. But in the higher tiers, there's less and less you can actually hit to do damage with, even with the excellent pen. DPM-wise, it doesn't really bully anyone, not even some tier 7s. So all in all, it's just a very bland, kind of boring tank. But I'm sure some people kind of enjoy it. I think it kind of looks cool, outside of the statistics. That looks kind of cool. It's nothing quite like it. But I don't think a lot of people are going to be playing this tank a lot, even if you get it for free. It's just... there's just not a whole lot going on here that makes it a really fun tank. Like, usually even the premium tanks will have something going for it that kind of makes it fun to play. Be it the speed, the gun, combination of both, turret armor, such things, and this is kind of like nothing. And the gun gets old really quickly, even with the good pen. So all in all, I would definitely not recommend buying one, because apparently it's going to be for sale in the premium shop / tech tree for gold at some point. Those are the rumors. I definitely do not recommend buying one. If you really need to train your crews, I'll let you in a little secret. The Excelsior is actually not that bad. The tier 5, not that bad. Alright, so, but like, and if you need to make money, there's better premiums out there to make money with. And if you just want crew training, buy an Excelsior for cheap. You know, it's a tier 5, those things are 50% off during New Year's and like Christmas and some other, you know, fee days and D-Day special things, you know, they're half off, relatively common. Buy one of those, seriously. It's like 2 cents compared to whatever this is going to be. It's probably going to be like 28 euros. There's better ways to spend that. So, yeah. In any case, that was kind of my final closing thoughts on this thing. Hope you guys enjoyed this review. I'll be making more reviews, but probably more just replay videos, just where something, you know, good happens, or some people have seen my E75 video that's like already, like, I don't know, a year old, half a year old. I'm probably gonna make more of those kind of videos rather than straight up reviews, but rather just talk you through a replay and stuff like that. So you get that to look forward to. I'm not quite sure how fast and how often I can make those videos, but I'll try my freaking best. So anyway, my name is Circonflexes. Peace out, boys.